Welcome back to On the Same Page. We are on Daf Samech Vav Amud Aleph 66a of Maseches Kiddushin. We're starting from the very end of the page, the last two words which say Amar Rava, and we're discussing the machlokes, the dispute between Abaye and Rava as to the effectiveness of a single witness in Davar Sheba Erva, in matters relating to marriage and marital law. So Abaye said that if there's one witness and nobody contradicts him, then we accept that testimony. Rava said, no, you always need two witnesses. So the Gemara says, Amar Rava said, Mina Mina, top of the next page, from where do I know this? How can I prove to you from a Mishnah or a Brisa that you always need two witnesses? So Ditnan, because we learned, this usually means a Mishnah, in this case actually is a Brisa. We learned in a Brisa, Amar of Shimon, Rabbi Shimon said the following, Maise b'magura shel diskim b'yavne. There was a occurrence in a magura. A magura is some kind of pool. In this case, it was basically a mikvah. And in the place called Diskim, or it may belong to Diskim, in Yavne. Diskim was either a person or a place, Rashi says, and it was in Yavne. Shahaisa omedes bechezka shlema. This pool there was a chazaka, there was a running assumption based on past events that there was enough water in this pool to make it a kosher mikvah. You need 40 sa of water, and there was a chazaka, it was established that there was 40 sa there. Umadadu, and then one time they measured it, v'nimtzeis chasera, and it turned out that there was less than 40 sa at this point. So we know at one point there was 40 sa. We know now there isn't 40 sa. What is the status of any immersions that happened in between those 2 points? Meaning, how do we deal with that? When do we assume that this went down from a kosher mikvah of 40 sa to less than 40 sa? So the Brisa says, Kol taharo shenasu al gaba, any taharos, any purifications that were done on it, hay Rabbi Tarfon mitaher. Rabbi Tarfon considered them pure. Meaning Rabbi Tarfon says, if we only discovered it now, we'll only treat it as, if we only discover now that it doesn't have enough water, it's from now on that we will treat it that way. Everything that was done up till now we'll assume was fine, and that it just, at this point, it just happened that it depleted and ended up below the threshold of 40 sa. For Rabbi Akiva metame. And Rabbi Akiva says, no, anything that happened there we assume is tame, we assume is impure, and anything that had to purify itself, that was immersed in there, we assume it's impure and that it didn't work. And basically, he would go back to the last time we know that it was 40 sa. That's the last time that we can count in immersion. Anything after that, we have to assume is tameh. Amar Rabbi Tarfon. Rabbi Tarfon said, Mikvah zeh b'chezka shalem hu amid. This mikvah had a chazaka that it was shalem. It had a chazaka, had an assumption that it was full, that it had 40 sa. Misafik atabol lechasro. Out of a doubt, you're going to diminish it. You're going to assume that it didn't have enough water. Al tachzirenu misafik. Do not diminish it out of a doubt. Meaning, Rabbi Tarfon saying, there is a chazaka. Chazaka is a halachic assumption based on the current situation. So the situation up until we measure it now was that there was an assumption it was full. Because that's the last time we checked, it was full. And whatever happened in between then and now, we're not sure. It's a doubt, it's a suffix. So we have a chazaka, we have an assumption, established assumption, and now we have a doubt. You want to break that assumption because of a doubt, because of a question? Rabbi Tarfon says, no. We run with the assumption, we assume it was full until the point that we know it's not, that we find out it's not. Rabbi Akiva said back, Adam zeh b'chezkas tameh. You're looking at the mikvah. What about the person who had to immerse themselves to purify themselves? That person we know was tameh. That's why they went to the mikvah. They had a chazaka, they had an established assumption that they were impure. B'chezkas tameh du amid. and misafek ataba lataro, and you, out of a doubt, want to say that he's pure? Al tatareno misafek, you can't purify him out of a doubt. You're also, according to you, we're also going against the chazaka. There's a different chazaka. You're focused, Rabbi Akiva says, you're focused on the chazaka of the mikvah. The mikvah has a chazaka, it has an established assumption that it's full. And you're saying, and out of a doubt, we're going to say it's not full? But I'm looking at the person. The person has a chazaka that they were tummy. We know they were tummy. That's why they went to the mikvah. Did they become pure? I don't know. We don't know. That's a doubt, because we don't know if it was full, because now it's not full. It doesn't have enough water now. So maybe yesterday and the day before, it didn't have enough water either. You're going to tell me the person's pure out of a doubt? That's a doubt going against a chazaka. Amar Rabbi Tarfon. So Rabbi Tarfon said back, Mashal, I'll give you a mashal. I'll give you an analogy or something to compare it to prove my point. That we should assume that it was full and the people are pure. Le'omed u'makriv al gabe ha'mizbeach. You have a Kohen, and he's bringing karbanos. V'nodashu ben grusha ben chalutza. And then, suddenly he gets word, we just found out that your mother was a divorcee. Or she was a chalutza, she had chalitza done for her from Yibum. And then she married your father. Now, a Kohen, if he's a Kohen, his father's a Kohen. His father is not allowed to marry a woman who's divorced or who had chalitza. And if he does, then the child is a chalal, is profaned from they can't serve in the temple, in the Beis HaMikdash. So there's a Kohen he's serving, he's in the middle of bringing a carbon, and all of a sudden, or he just brought a carbon, and all of a sudden they run in and they say, we just found out that you're a chalal, and you're not fit to serve. Your mother was really divorced before she married your father. So the halacha is shavodasok shera. The carbon that he brought is considered kosher. We don't disqualify it b'diavad. So Rabbi Tarfon saying that here too, we have a person who went to the mikvah, and now all of a sudden we find out that the mikvah is not full. But what happened. What happened previously. The tefillah, just like the carbon is good. In that case, so too here. Word comes after the person went to the mikvah that the mikvah is not full. Well, what they did is considered good, and the tefillah, the immersion, is good. That was the Rabbi Tarfon's comparison. Rabbi Akiva said, I have a different analogy, a better analogy. You're comparing it to the wrong thing. Mashal omedu makriv al gabi hamizbeach v'nodashu balmum. I would compare it to somebody, a Kohen who's bringing a carbon, or brought a carbon, and he finds out that he's a balmum, that he has a blemish, a physical blemish that disqualifies him from serving as a Kohen. Shavodaso psula. There we say that the service, the karbanos that he brought are actually puzzled or disqualified, they don't count. So if he finds out he's a chalal, what happened, and it's good, b'diavad, after the fact. If he finds out he's a balmum, if he finds out he has a physical blemish that disqualifies him, then what he brought is also disqualified. The karbanos, the offerings he brought, are disqualified. Rabbi Akiva says that's what we should compare it to. And so you find out the mikvah doesn't have enough water, then the immersions that you did are disqualified. Just like the balmum, just like the blemished Kohen, the karbanos he brought are disqualified. So Amar Rabbi Tarfon. So Rabbi Tarfon said to Rabbi Akiva, Ata dimiso lebalmum. You are comparing the case of the mikvah, you're comparing the mikvah to a balmum, to a blemished Kohen. Vani dimisiv leben gerusha leben chalutza. I'm comparing the mikvah to a ben gerusha, the son of a divorced woman or the son of a chalutza, meaning to a chalal, a Kohen who finds out he was a chalal. Nire lemidome. We should investigate which it's more similar to. That's really what this hinges on at the end of the day, he's saying. Why is this mikvah more similar to? A Kohen who gets a blemish, or finds out he has a blemish, or a Kohen who finds out that he's a chalal, that his mother and his parents were married in a forbidden manner. If it's more comparable, if the mikvah is more comparable to the Kohen, who's the son of the divorcee, or the son of the woman who received chalitza, nidonenu keben grusha v'keben chalutza, then we should treat it like that, like a grusha ben chalutza, meaning what happened was considered good. What happened in the past counts. But if the mikvah is more comparable to a balmum, to a Kohen that gets a blemish, so nidonenu kebalmum, we should compare it to a balmum, to a Kohen gets a blemish, and what happened would not be good, it would be disqualifying, and the immersions that were done in the mikvah would be no good. So Rabbi Tarfon says that's what it comes down to. Which one is it more similar to? Let's figure this out. So Hischel Rabbi Akiva Ladon. So Rabbi Akiva started examining it, started to judge on it. And he said the following: Mikvah psula biyachid. A mikvah can be declared pasul on the word of a single witness, because a single witness is believed for iser, the heter, for matters of permissibility, right? Not davar shavera, not marital matters, but iser heter, something's kosher, it's not kosher. Is the mikvah full? Is not full? That we say eid echad ne'eman. One witness is believed. So we know one witness is believed as to the status of the mikvah. And balmum psula biyachid. And the balmum, whether a Kohen is fit to serve, is also can be done by one witness. One witness can say that the Kohen is a balmum, that he has a blemish, and he would be believed. So Rabbi Akiva says that's comparable, that's similar. The mikvah and the balmum, the mikvah and the blemished Kohen, they're similar, because the mikvah, one witness is believed, and the balmum, the blemished Kohen, one witness is believed. V'al yochiach ben grusha ben chalutza shepsula b'shnayim. And don't compare it, or don't clarify it, its state, based on the ben grusha, the ben chalutza, the product, the child of a divorced woman married to a Kohen, because shepsula b'shnayim. There you would need two witnesses to render her divorce, to declare that she's actually divorced and the child is a halal. So that's a different status. So Rabbi Akiva says this is more similar. What I'm saying is to compare it to a blemished Kohen. That's more similar, because that's something that we accept the testimony of one witness, as opposed to a testimony regarding a divorced woman, or a testimony that the mother was actually divorced and that the marriage was forbidden and the child is a halal. That would need two witnesses. Davar acher, another point, he says, mikvah psula begufa. The mikvah, the psul, the disqualification is intrinsic. It doesn't have enough water. It's there. It's not something that happened outside. It's something that happens to it itself. Balmum psula begufa. And the blemished Kohen, the psul, the disqualification, is intrinsic. He has a physical blemish. But don't clarify, don't prove from the child of a divorced woman, or the child of a chalutza, shepsula me'acherim. There, the psul, there, the disqualification has nothing to do with him, it's where he comes from. It's not intrinsic. So if you're going to, what should you compare the mikvah to, says Rabbi Akiva? Compare it to a blemished Kohen, where the disqualification is intrinsic, as opposed to a halal, where the disqualification is coming from outside of the person, from the fact that his mother was divorced when she married his father. So Rabbi Akiva says, I rest my case. That's why I think that we should compare the mikvah to the balmum, to the blemished Kohen, and not to the halal, the child of the divorced woman. Amarle Rabbi Tarfon said, Akiva, kol haporish mimcha keporish min achayim. Rabbi Tarfon said, wow, that's great. He agreed. Anybody who separates from you, it's like separating from life. He was saying that was a excellent proof, and I have so much to learn from you. Anybody who distances himself from you, it's like distancing themselves from life itself. Fine. So that's basically accepted. So we accept Rabbi Akiva's position that the mikvah is compared to the balmum, and all the immersions that happened up till now are considered no good, because the person who was immersing had a cheskas tuma. They were assumed to be tameh, and the doubt that we have that maybe it's a good mikvah still is not enough to override the chazaka, the assumption that they're tameh, and we compare that to a balmum, a kohen who is blemished, who has a physical blemish disqualifying him, that we say that, and when he finds out that he's balmum, the blemish, the avoda that he did previously is disqualified. Okay, so the Gemara asks, so this was all a brisa, and this was all the brisa that Rava is bringing to prove his position that you need two witnesses for a davar shar be'erva, for matters of relating to marital law, even if nobody argues on the one witness. One witness and nobody contradicts him is still not enough. You always need two witnesses. So he's bringing a proof from this brisa, so now he's going to explain it. One of the things that the brisa had said was, what Rabbi Akiva had said, was that the balmum, the blemished kohen, he gets disqualified based on the word of one witness. One witness says he has a mum, he has a blemish, that we believe that one witness. So he says, what's that case? What's the case? If the kohen says, no, I don't, and he contradicts him, mi meheman, would we believe the one witness? No, nobody would say that. Nobody would say that one witness is believed even when he's contradicted. The only possibility is when he's not contradicted. So the case where we say we believe one witness that the Kohen's balmum can't be where the Kohen contradicts him. Ella deshasik. So it must be the case is where the Kohen was silent. So if that's the case that we're talking about, so now we have to borrow that set of circumstances for the other case. So the case when we said, but don't compare it to the product of the child of a divorced woman, etc., Rabbi Akiva said, because there you're not believed with one witness, only with two. So you have to, if the circumstances for the first scenario are where the Kohen didn't contradict, so you have to be consistent. The circumstances for this have to be also that the Kohen didn't contradict. Ukatani, and yet it says, mikvah psula b'yachid, the mikvah could be disqualified by a single witness, u'balmum psula b'yachid, and the blemished Kohen can be disqualified by one witness, but don't prove from the child of a ben gerusha ben chalutza, or the ben gerusha ben chalutza, don't prove from the chala, the child of the divorced woman, because there you need two witnesses. Now hold on a second. We just proved, Rava says, that the case is where there's no contradiction. Nobody contradicted the witness. So why do you need two witnesses? One should suffice. According to you, Abaye, if nobody contradicts, then one witness is enough. And that's the circumstances that we're talking about here. And yet it says you need two witnesses. So says Rava, you see that even that when it comes to davar shar be'erva, matters relating to arayos, to marital law, to sexual averos, you need two witnesses. Fine. So that's Rava's proof. Ve'abaye amar, Abaye will say back, Le'olam dikamak chishlei. No. The case could be, your setup was based on the assumption that we can't be talking about where the Kohen contradicted the one witness, and that's how you arrived at your proof. Says Abaye, no. Really, the case could be where the Kohen did contradict the one witness. Udikamar tamai meheman. So you said to them, why is the one witness believed? Usually one witness is not believed, if somebody contradicts him. So the reason is, Damar le shlach achvi. Because he can say to him, take off your clothes and show us. Meaning there's a claim here that this Kohen has some kind of physical blemish. I don't know where, it could be anywhere else. Whatever the halachos are of that, whatever blemishes would disqualify him. So let's check it out, right? So in that case where he's accused of it, and then he denies it, so then we say, okay, so prove it. Right? And if he's not ready or willing to prove it, then we accept the testimony of the one witness. So, right, the one witness can't prove it because he's not going to take off the Kohen shirt. But if the Kohen is going to try to defend himself and say he's valid, so then he has to prove it. So says Abaye, the case would be where he didn't do that. So even though the case is he did contradict him, but yet he's still not believed. The one witness is believed because the Kohen wasn't ready to prove it. And that's really what Rabbi Akiva goes on to say. He says, mikvah psula begufa, ba'alum psula begufa. That the mikvah, the disqualification is intrinsic, and the balmum, the blemish Kohen, the disqualification is intrinsic. Meaning he was trying to bring out this point that we could clarify this. We can prove it. We have a mikvah that's not full. We have a Kohen that has a blemish. So that's that's really what's going on here, according to Abaye. One witness is believed to say the Kohen has a blemish, and if he denies it, then we say, okay, then prove it. Show us that you don't have it. And then we say, V'al yochiach ben gerusha ben chalutza, but don't prove, Rabbi Akiva said, don't prove from the case of the ben gerusha, the son of the divorced woman, or the son of the chalutza shepsulo me'acherim, that there the disqualification comes from elsewhere. And so what Abaye has accomplished is he says, no, we're talking about really where the one witness was contradicted. In the first case, where the blemish is intrinsic, so it doesn't help to contradict the one witness. We still believe the one witness until you prove it, because it's intrinsic. As opposed to in the case of the ben gerusha ben chalutza, so there Abaye will say, since the one witness was contradicted, and you can't just prove it, it's not intrinsic. You can't just take off your shirt and prove it. So, since it's not intrinsic, so the one witness is contradicted, and the one witness is not believed. But Abaye will say, but if the one witness was not contradicted, I maintain my position. Abaye says that we could believe one witness even on davar shebe'erva, even on marital matters, as long as there's nobody contradicting him. Okay. So now the Gemara goes back to a statement that I made earlier, and it elaborates on it. So, it had said, "Uben gerusha ben chalutza da'avodas kshera minal," and asked minalan. So earlier we said that when deciding what to compare the mikvah to, the Gemara said that if a person, a Kohen serves, he brings a carbon, and then he finds out that he's actually a chalal, that his mother and father were forbidden to marry, and he's the product of them, he's a chalal, he's not allowed to serve, but what he has already done, the karbanos he's already brought, are valid. So the Gemara asks me, Nolan, where do we know that from? What's the source for that? So Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Rav Yehuda says in the name of Shmuel, to Amar Kra, because the pasuk says, this is a pasuk talking about Pinchas actually, that Hashem promises Pinchas, who was a Kohen, or became a Kohen, it says, V'haisa lo ulazaro acharav, it says, Bris Kunas Olam, that for him and his descendants afterwards, they'll have a covenant of priesthood, that they'll be priests. And the implication, says the Gemara, is Bein Zera Kasher, Ubein Zera Pasal. Whether the product is kosher, is valid, or whether they're disqualified, they're still good. In other words, what the pasuk would be teaching us is, even a chalal is still a Kohen. Lichatchila, ideally he's not supposed to serve, but he's still a Kohen. He has a bris kunas olam. He will always have the covenant of priesthood, And b'diavad, if he did bring a carbon, the carbon would be considered good. After the fact, he's not supposed to, but if he did, it's valid. That's the source according to Shmuel. Avua de Shmuel, Amar, Shmuel's father had a different source. Mehach, he said from here. It says, this is in Parshas Bezos HaBracha, in the blessing that Moshe gives to the tribe of Levi, from whom the Kohanim come, the priests come. It says, Barech Hashem chelo, ufoal yodav tirtzeh. Hashem should bless his chelo, his army, and the poal yodav tirtzeh, and the actions of his hands should be desired before God. What does that mean? Or what is that? How do we use that? Mar explains, Afilu chulin shabo tirtzeh. We have a drasha on the word chelo. The word chelo, which means like his army, his soldiers, but which is referring to the Levim and the Kohanim, but even the chulin shabo, even the mundane amongst them, or some have a version that says even the chalalin shabo, even those who are halal, even those who are deconsecrated, but still, fo'al yadav tirtzeh, the action of their hands will be desired, meaning will be accepted. And again, after the fact, b'diavad, if the chalal brought a carbon, the pasuk will be telling us that his carbon is accepted. Again, at least if it was done unknowingly. If it's done on purpose, that's a different story. Rabbi Yanai Amar Me'achar. Rabbi Yanai says a different source. It says, Uvasal ha'kohen asher yeh b'yamim ha'hem. When a person has a question, they'll come to the Kohen. You should come to the Kohen that's in your days. So what does that mean, the Kohen that's in your days? Says the Gemara, you think that he should go to a Kohen that's not in his days? Or he's going to take a time machine or something? Why does the Torah say he should go to a Kohen that's in his days? Ella. So rather what it's telling me is Zeh kosher v'nischalel. It means whatever Kohen's in your days, even if he's a chalal, if he was a kosher and he became a chalal, he became disqualified because, again, of his parents were marrying a forbidden way. So, still, he's a Kohen. Whoever the Kohen is in your days, you should go to him, even if he seemingly, doesn't qualify. At least with this, in terms of being a chalal. Okay, so we have 3 different verses trying to prove this point that the avoda, the service that's done by a chalal, by that type of disqualified Kohen, b'diavad, after the fact, we still consider the service valid, although lechatchila, from a starting point, he's not supposed to do it. Now, what about the other case? We said that balmum davodaso psula. We said like a balmum, if a Kohen is blemished, the avoda that he did is pasul, is disqualified, doesn't count. Minalan, what's the source for that? How do we know that if a Kohen did avoda, then he found out he was blemished, his avoda is no good, his karbanos are no good? So Amar Yehuda Amar Shmuel, the Amar Kra, because the pasuk says, this is also in the context of Pinchas, it says, therefore, say, God says, I give to him my covenant of peace. And the Gemara has a drasha. The Gemara learns from the word shalom, kishehu shalem, v'lo kishehu chaser. I give him my covenant if he's shalem, if he's full, but not if he's missing something. If he has a physical blemish, he's missing a limb or something, then he cannot be a Kohen. And even after the fact, even the diavad, it won't be good. The Gemara asks, "V'ha shalom," because it doesn't say shalem. It says shalom, peace. There's a bris of peace. It doesn't say a bris, a covenant to a complete one. So Amar Nachman, vav de shalom katiyahi. He says, actually, no, the vav is short. So, or it's cut off. So in the Torah, that vav on the word shalom is not a full vav. And what that tells you is to read it and not to read it. The word is shalom. We're supposed to read it as shalom, but it's also to be read shalem, as if the vav isn't there, that I'm giving a bris, I'm giving a covenant of kahuna, of priesthood, to shalem, to those who are full, complete, physically intact, as opposed to somebody who has a physical blemish, missing something, or the like. So So they do not get the covenant of priesthood, and such a person, even after the fact, even b'diavad, their avoda, their service would not be valid. Okay, we'll pick up from the next Mishnah next time. Be'ezer Hashem.